Hi everyone, old guy here, and it's 1 October and it's a lovely day, so a little change of scenery, and I have a guest commentator today who will just sit here and look disapprovingly at me. The book today is William Faulkner's Go Down Moses. Now, no doubt, most of you were forced to read William Faulkner at some point in your life. Probably his short story, A Rose for Emily. Or if you had a really ambitious English teacher, the novel As I Lay Dying, which you probably hated because it can't be appreciated until you've had enough experience with the degeneracies of human race to get Faulkner's message. And God knows, high school seniors shouldn't have that much experience with human degeneracy. Shouldn't. You also hated it because Faulkner's prose is dense, turgid, bewildering, unpunctuated, unclear, and convinces you he hates you as much as you hate him. It's only later that you realize Faulkner is part of that stream of consciousness generation of writers that included James Joyce and Proust and Virginia Woolf. And he wasn't so much trying to hurt you as enlisting the best method to convey his message, which is, well, in this book, The Terrible Legacy of Slavery. Ignore the mosquitoes. I'm trying to. Now, yes, we don't need dense literary tomes to convince us that slavery was terrible, but, actually you do. Especially this one, because it is contemporary. Faulkner grew up with the children of slaves and slave owners and knew their grandparents, who were the actual slaves and slave owners, and lived in what was one of the most profoundly racist societies of the time, Mississippi. He was part of the Southern Renaissance movement of the 1930s that rejected all that lost cause literature and began a criticism of Southern culture, especially in race relations, which is the central theme of this book. It isn't so much a novel as a series of short stories, connected by the same family, the McCauslins, ranging from the 1840s to the early 1900s. And boy, does it range. You have no idea what decade you're in from one story to the next. Except for the technological clues. In one story, you're driving a buckboard, in the next one you're driving a Model T, and then back to the buckboard. And the central character, Ike McCausland, is 10 years old, then he's 50 years old, then back to being a teenager, sometimes all within the same story. Well, it's not that bad, but, it seems like it. The McCauslands have two branches, one white, one black, both tracing their origin to progenitor Carruthers McCausland, who may have begetted both through an incestuous relationship, so the degeneracy begins rather early. Sorry about that. Phone fell. The white branch is astoundingly callous to the black one. They're half-brothers and sisters and cousins, because they simply do not regard black people as people. I don't mean in a conscious racial superiority-inferiority manner, but in a subconscious, unaware, almost visceral level that never rises to the point of examination. And that is far worse than any conscious racism. The white Mosquitos are incapable of seeing their black relatives as humans, except for Ike. These stories show him waking up, slowly and without much societal impact, to the idea of humanity, not just of the former slaves, but of everyone. That's because Ike is attached to the land, and many of the stories concern Ike in a hunting camp and his interactions with Chickasaws and a deer and a monster bear that makes him doubt Southern culture foundations of plantation, property, and privilege. Not enough to break conviction or relationships, but enough to turn his back on his heritage. But you have to wade through a dense, almost impenetrable thicket of words and paragraphs and pages to get an inkling of this. In the interim, you encounter grifters and cons and disingenuousness among both branches, because the original Mosquitos sin is visited on both sides. The white branch is continuously baffled by the human behavior of the black branch, and the blacks continuously suffer the inability of the whites to see them. Both must operate within the strict walls erected around their inviolable borders. This is not an entertaining read, unless you're really into this kind of writing. It's work. Bring a notebook and jot stuff down, because trying to figure out who is related to whom is a Mensa test, especially since everyone has about 5 or 6 different names and nicknames, some of which you don't get to associate with the character until 3 or 4 stories along. But it's worth it, and not because of some superficial social justice reason, but because you can see how the presence of humanity slowly erodes the walls blocking it. Slowly. Very slowly. Old guy here.